Hey everyone, welcome back to Free Our Mind Fridays.
Happy New Year.
This is your host, Julie, once again.
And this is Lay. It's time for us to let's get liberated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Happy New Year. Welcome back. We are glad to be here virtually with y'all. Welcome to our first episode of our Dimensions of Wellness series. Woohoo, woohoo. We'll be talking about emotional, first of the 10 dimensions.
Yes, emotional and technically combined with mental because that's how Samsa coined it. And our emotions are really like inexplicably intertwined with our mental health.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about emotional and mental wellness, the first of our dimensions. And we'll be talking about introductions of the dimensions of wellnesses, a mental health check, some statistics to share with y'all. And of course, we can't forget the tools and practices.
Yepers. I'm really excited to start this series because we've done so many topics over the past year since we first launched Free Our Mind Fridays on Instagram. But I feel like this one is really intentional. Um, Ever since we, started our research about like trauma and violence, I think one of the things that has become more and more clear to us is that we can't talk about violence and trauma without making sure we prioritize healing as central to the conversation. And so,
Absolutely.
in the last few years, especially since the shutdowns and quarantine during COVID, we've really made it a point to center wellness education for our young folks and for the community because we just know how hard it is out there for us. Life be life in.
Hmm.
The struggle is so real. But we got to keep going. We need us, we need each other. And for us, as folks who serve in the community, I
Hmm.
always say, how can we expect us to serve others if we can hardly serve ourselves? So I always
Hmm.
make sure that our healing and our wellness comes first so that our cup can be overfloweth and allow us to better pour into the community and each other.
Yes, I love that and couldn't agree more. Very excited for this new series that we're doing. New year, new series. What?
New Year, new series.
New year, new series. We keep it going
Yeah, bam.
with everything that we do. And I'm pretty sure y'all are gonna love this as well.
Yes, keeping it going, keeping it growing. Speaking of growing, about the dimensions of wellness. So, I first discovered the dimensions of wellness when I started doing a lot more research about healing and wellness during COVID. And, one of our the program that we ran during COVID, instead of only political education, we decided to also integrate wellness education. And that's when I discovered the dimensions of wellness. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
organizations that talk about it, a lot of schools, even that institutionalize it within their practices and their research. But it was the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration that originally coined and kind of like trademarked the original 8 dimensions of wellness. Now, we at Bay
Mm.
Peace, we love these 8 dimensions, and we felt that there was something missing.
Mhm.
And so we'll be going over every single dimension every single month for the rest of the year. But just to kind of give you all a snapshot of all of the different dimensions that we'll be going through. So our first today is the emotional and mental dimension. Emotional and mental health, of course, is so important. After
Mhm.
that, we'll dig into these other ones. I'll just share them in no special order. but there's financial wellness, intellectual wellness, spiritual wellness, environmental wellness, occupational, social, and physical. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
original eight that they have. Now, what we added is creative and cultural, because these are two things that are really central to our work and that we know has really great benefits for us and for folks in the
Mm-hmm.
community. And we've seen it, we've seen it work wonders, and we've seen its magic firsthand. So those will be all the 10 that we go through our series.
Yes. I'm very excited for this because I think each dimension is so important. And what I kind of do and what I think about it sometimes is I fall the line with my chakras too, as well.
Mm,
And I just think it's just a wonderful way to like live by, check in. And if people are like me, sometimes like we need check marks and check-ins and lists and
yes.
stuff to make us feel good. This is for you.
Yes, I'm definitely
Okay.
one of those people too.
Right. We have to.
I'm making a
Okay.
list and
And
I'm
we,
checking it twice.
and I'm probably going to go back, maybe a couple weeks later and reminisce like, damn, I really did that.
Okay, come on.
All right. So, first off, while starting in dipping our toes into the emotional and mental dimension, we're going to first start with a mental health check between Lay and I, and also feel free, following some of the questions or wherever guide you want to, feel free to do that as well and share in the comments. So, mental health check.
Go ahead, Julie.
Ooh. Ooh. All right, all right. I was kind of thinking about this. I feel strong enough to say that my mental health isn't always the same every single day.
Right.
And I'm learning to be okay with that. Sometimes in the past, I was really hard on myself just because I wasn't as positive one day or one moment. And just being a little more gentle with myself. But
Mm-hmm.
starting from right now, in this moment, some things I like to ask myself is how I'm feeling, like in my body first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Allows me to ground myself a lot more. My body's feeling okay right now. I don't know, this whole entire week I have not been wanting to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I just been kind of hard on myself with that because last week I was like, yeah, let's get it going. Let's get out there in the world or whatever. And then this week is like, not really. And so I kind of had to dig deep a little bit this morning of why am I not wanting to get out of bed or why am I not wanting to get out of the world? And I could blame things on weather wise or comfort wise. But honestly, it's really just up to me to find things to motivate me throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to be gentle and find little things today to make me happy. Like specifically today,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted I wanted the urge to it's something so simple too, but instead of just having my hair down and just like being all messy and crazy looking,
Mm-hmm.
I slicked it back, I wet it just because I could have that clean look and
Yeah.
my face could be, you know, out in the
Yeah.
open. I don't know, it's something
It
so
makes a
simple, but
difference.
it made a difference this morning how I moved
Yeah.
today so far.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. I don't know why. I think even by slicking back my hair, it was me opening up my body and my face to today, basically. That's how
Yeah.
I'm trying to analyze it in my brain.
Yeah.
But that's something motivating. And since then, I got out, I went on a walk, I went to go get some coffee. Um,
Mhm.
I rolled down the windows. I don't know. It just made me feel a lot better to be out and about and made me grateful that I got up this morning and
Yeah,
didn't snooze my alarm like 500 times.
right.
So,
Yeah, one
yeah.
of my college homies used to always say, when you look good, you feel good, and you do
Mm-hmm.
good. And
Absolutely.
that's like a perfect reminder. It really is true. It's like
Like, look
you
good,
might
feel
not feel
good.
great inside, but when you do something on the outside, it does something for you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yesterday, actually, I was talking to Sin. If y'all don't know Sin by now, what are you doing? But Sin's a part of our Bay Peace team, our Base Peace fam, and we're really into cycling. And I was asking her things like, why do I feeling this way on this cycle? And she was like, girl, you
Oh
need
yeah,
to
cycle
go.
syncing.
She was like, girl, you need to go put your makeup on, get a cute ass outfit on, and like go out there in the day because
Yeah.
whatever cycle I'm on right now, if she was like, you're just needing that energy and it first starts with you on how you like present yourself and what care you're having in yourself and
Yeah.
what love you got. And so that's just with that. And this morning, it's just made me feel a lot better and a lot more motivating to be a little extra in my care and not being so hard on myself of like what I'm feeling or my routine looked different from last week or yesterday.
Yeah.
So, what I could say for my mental health is really just taking it like one step at a time and not being so judgmental or analyzing myself and just allowing myself to feel and think without judgment.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I'm glad you mentioned that about cycle syncing, because I was gonna say that too, is that as women especially, um, sometimes it's not even a mental thing or an emotional thing, it's a hormonal thing.
Yeah.
And hormones impact our emotions and our, what the things that, are going through our mind, and then vice versa, right? So I think for women, it can be a lot more complex. But
Yeah.
definitely our moods, like when you said that your mood and your mental health is not the same from day to day, I also felt that because, it comes in waves. We have our highs, we have our lows, but nonetheless, we got to just keep it going. And sometimes we got to learn to ride those waves.
Mm-hmm. And
And kind of,
find things that kind of will help you in a sense
yeah, yeah,
and reach
absolutely.
out,
You gotta
you
like listen
know.
to your body and give it what it needs. I think I read something the other day. I'm like obsessed with Pinterest. I've been telling y'all because I'm not on social media.
Lays, I mean, I feel like I was having a conversation around Christmas time, and my cousin, she was like, I think Pinterest is like gonna make a comeback. Like
Yeah,
that she thinks that's gonna be the it app for the people.
yeah.
And I believe so.
So this thing that I saw was about cycle syncing because I've been really curious about it. And so just been kind of like reading up on it, exploring it a little bit. And there when it comes to cycle singing, there's some things related to like what you should do when you work out, the types of things you should eat, but there's also the types of things that's like connected to your mood. And I gotta like revisit the pin in my board. But anyways, one of them, there's like a period or a phase where like, you're really in your divine feminine. I think it's the phase where you're about to ovulate or something like that. And it's like you
Yes,
really just
girl.
you got to just dig into your beauty and your feminine energy and like really love up
Absolutely.
on yourself and go out and have fun and socialize or whatever it
Me.
is.
No, that's exactly what I'm in right now, too.
Okay. Yeah, so I felt that with like you got to give your body what it needs. I also thought it was interesting when you talked about having to find motivation. That's another
Hmm.
thing that fluctuates, being motivated, that's an emotion, that's a feeling.
Right.
And the thing for me is that feelings, emotions, those are fleeting. They come and go.
Hmm.
And so for me, it's been less about finding motivation and more about maintaining discipline that regardless of the mood I'm in or how I feel or whatever it is, there's things that I know I just have to do so that I can be good. Like, for
Right.
example, I have to make sure I'm drinking enough water. I have to make sure I'm meditating or doing my breath work every morning, because if I go too long without doing that, my body is going to get to shit. And my mental health, I'm going to start spazzing out on everybody. I'm going to get moody.
Absolutely.
And so those
Yes.
things, it's like, and even with work sometimes too, it's like sometimes I don't feel like being hella busy as I am, but let me at
Mm-hmm.
least go ahead and lay down in the bed while I work, and I'm gonna just get the shit done anyways.
Right. Absolutely. And I think too, I've been a huge advocate for rewarding myself, even whatever. And maybe it's not always looking like a treat or a trip or, a date or something, but
Mhm.
even like the sleeping or laying down in your bed while working, like that's a
Right.
reward to me. Like
Yeah.
I'm set up right now in like my meditation corner. And
Yeah.
usually I'll just use the space to like do yoga and meditate. But I was
Hmm.
like, this looks really cozy and I'm gonna reward myself by being in my safe space while working.
Hmm. Hmm.
I swear, when you get start growing older, just the little things make you happy.
Yeah. No, for
And they
real.
mean so much.
Yeah. No, for real. Like even making my bed, like when I
Hmm.
make my bed every morning, I always feel hella accomplished. Like, okay, I can do this. I got my shit together.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like also another thing for my mental health check is applauding yourself
Yeah.
because I can't remember exactly where I read it, but I do know the applause and the recognition, even from yourself, makes you want to do things like that a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just something too that people could take in for a little tip and trick because it's just psychology. It's just the way our brain works ever since we were a little kid. Like we need to be
Mm-hmm.
applauded, okay? And we'll still do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough of me. Thank you for letting me go first. I appreciate it, but now I want to hear about you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for
Of
holding space for me. Uh,
course.
um, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've been kind of feeling like, damn, I miss therapy. I miss going to therapy.
Oh, I've I feel you, girl.
Um, yeah, I miss going to therapy because there's been some really big transitions in my life recently. Like moving again, being back in a relationship. Like those are really big things that I, I didn't really expect to be back in the situation, and like adjusting and trying to really like heal through the pain and the trauma that I had been through previously in under
Mm-hmm.
similar circumstances it was like really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and this past winter, so my two oldest from my first marriage, they're between here and Colorado on alternating breaks. So this past winter break, they were here with me. And God, having all my kids in the house and then having just moved back and still kind of like getting settled back into my relationship was just like so stressful for
It's a
me.
lot.
Um, and so, yeah, like there was a period during I really had the winter blues. I was like, fuck, I'm so glad I didn't have to work, that we had those couple weeks off.
Uh-huh.
Um, because it really just allowed me to focus on my family, but also like just have the freedom to do how I felt and how I pleased, while I
Mm-hmm.
also was getting my shit together at home.
Yeah.
Um, so even though it's been tough, I think that me really staying in this sort of attitude of gratitude every morning and every night has
Mm-hmm.
has kind of kept me grounded. You know, I've shared with you before, just like one of my spiritual practices is when I pray, it's as soon as I wake up and right before I go to bed, or I try my best if I, if I don't forget or get too caught up with whatever I got to do or I'm too tired. But,
Mm-hmm.
before I even ask God for anything, I'm always starting with, you know, giving gratitude and giving thanks for all of the things that I do have already.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's really helped me just stay grounded and not worry too much about the things that are not, or the things that I want and don't have yet, and it's really not even material things. It's like about qualities of life or qualities of the relationships that I have with people closest to me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that too, like in this past year in 2023, I really started to rebuild my relationship with and my faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has also helped me build a sense of resilience to kind of grow through the little things and work through the obstacles or work through the difficulties and work through the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when we beat ourselves up and when we get so caught up in like, damn, why isn't it this? And why can't I do this? And we start to
Right.
like blame ourselves or be hard on ourselves or be down ourselves. It just makes
Yes.
the situation even harder.
Absolutely. Because it's like you're second guessing a lot
Yeah.
of the things that you've already done and are already in place for you.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so I think that, even with my growing faith in God and like, strengthening my relationship with God and really prioritizing God's presence in my life,
Mm-hmm.
it's really given me like strength and wisdom and a sense of like inner peace and inner joy that is
Mm-hmm.
not tainted by the shit that I go through, or that is not tainted by the things that people do to me or say to me or put me through. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, like I would say, despite the really big changes and like even my workload has hella grown, like losing Sam. We miss you, Sam.
We miss you, Sam.
Losing Sam, like our workload is growing. And even before that, I feel like, I have the biggest plate of responsibilities to help hold us down at Bay Peace. But outside of Bay Peace, like I'm working multiple contracts, like
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah, girl,
doing
you
the
booked and busy.
I'm hella booked and busy, and like my kids got sports every day. So we got sports like 4 days a week. Um and so just with everything with work and the kids and home or whatever, my mantra lately to really also mitigate stress, like other than my faith and other than my gratitude, I really been like sitting on this mantra or with this mantra of like one day, one step, one breath at a time.
Yes.
Because I have a tendency to spread myself thin, and
Mm-hmm.
I have real ass FOMO about hella shit.
Oh no.
Like as maybe that's a Leo thing, but like I want to do everything under the sun all the
Yes.
time.
Y'all want to
Um,
be up in there at all times.
so I'm trying to be better than that, and just focus on one thing at a time, so I'm not hella stressed out. Even my tabs, I'm like, okay, let me close this tab, then I'm done. I really do
Yes,
one task at a time. Like I do not multitask anymore. Um,
that's good.
and then yeah, so that, and I think making sure that I'm doing like with my routine, I'm so diligent and disciplined about my routine now. Like,
Absolutely. You motivate me all the time.
bro, like my morning routine, if I miss my morning routine for like 2 or 3 days, my house will feel it. My kids will feel it for real. And then I start to feel bad because, like, damn, I'm lashing out. I'm like, I do not have to be this way. All it takes me is like 20, 30 minutes, 45 if I want to get a little spicy. And I do my breath work. Oh, you know what I learned about that's been helping too is hormone hacking. Have you heard of hormone hacking?
Yes, yes, I have. I've been before around Christmas, I started doing a lot of research.
Dude, yeah, we'll talk about during practices. But yeah, I mean, I think, being disciplined and diligent about my routine and at least one thing every day for my mental health, one thing every day for my physical health, and one thing every day for my spiritual health, like it's really keeping me going. And even though I have
Hmm.
so much shit on my plate, like I still, I feel really grounded and I feel really confident and I feel really protected because of the things that I've committed to building my life around, like my routine is not secondary to my work and my kids, it's like the things that I do with my kids and with my work is built around my routine.
Yes. Yes, and I really do love that. I would love to pick someone's brain that doesn't really enjoy routines, like timed
Mm-hmm.
routines. Maybe we should invite somebody on because if it works for them, hey, it works for them. But I just really feel a strong love for routines and like you said, incorporating other people as well in your routine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to like grow towards this year now is like, okay, now that I got my routine down solid, I gotta be more inclusive of my kids. Because when
Yeah,
like where it is at this point is like, okay, I need my space. Go do this or go do that because I got to do my thing right now.
yeah,
So now I'm like also one of my goals this year is to build them into the routine, not just the Leilani routine, but now we have our family routine.
yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I really do want to highlight what you were saying about even the first thing that really came and I relate very much to is like even the winter blues
Yeah.
of like winter. I shared with you about how I was feeling over the holidays. It could be really overwhelming.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel that guiltiness of like, why aren't I happy like around the holidays? Like,
Yeah.
why aren't I happy? Like, kind of thinking about that. But I really love what you said about the attitude of gratitude. I think it really plays a huge part in how we should perceive ourselves as maybe someone we have to think sometimes too of like that's how people perceive us as well. So when you even have the attitude of gratitude, it's like you looking into what you have from an
Hmm.
outsider.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I agree on the faith in God. And it seems like I really do want to praise you of having comfortability to, it seems like, the outside sources. It's
Hmm.
sometimes easier to, not even easier, but sometimes life just be really lifing that you need to look to an outside source. Like,
No, for
I feel
real.
you. I feel you on the faith in God that this past year, it was my first time ever stepping into a church like
Hmm.
for years because I was
I
like,
remember
yo,
you talking to me with your mom, right?
with my mom. My mom has been religious ever since I was a little girl. She used to
Yeah.
always take me to church every weekend. And of course, I turned a certain age where I just was, not aligning with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was my first time stepping up in a church because sometimes situations are thrown at us that
Uh-huh.
sometimes like our intermediate people around us can't give us like some type of guidance or advice. Sometimes you really just need to look to something else
Yeah.
and have faith in something else
Yeah.
that will give
It's
you some
bigger
type
than
of
us.
guidance.
Bro,
Yeah.
life is so much bigger than us. Yeah, that's definitely been really big for me. It's like I used to have a really big ego, like I used to want the world to revolve around Leilani, and I
Hmm.
need y'all to believe, whatever it is. And I think really learning to humble myself and be and like learn from others, be led by others, be open to more open to others' ideas and decision making. And like I think was it your board that I seen that listen more, speak less photo?
Yes, it was.
Yes, that was my thing last year. And that's still something I'm trying to hold with me is instead of always trying to be the main one talking, I'm like, let me listen first. Let me look
Mm-hmm.
first. Let me just peep and see what's up and
Right.
like take it all in first and process before I'm like, and this is what I think and this is how I feel. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I feel like I'm learning so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And there comes to a time too of like, you need to go and talk. Now
Yeah,
you need to have that space
right.
and look to something that will help you. And it does come from also listening and noticing as well and honoring
Yeah,
those certain
absolutely.
signs, that energy, that person that randomly came into your life. Like it's the
Yeah.
things that you have to go back into. And like we said, I believe it was yesterday. No, it was the day before. Sometimes when we do get into our routine and
Hmm.
we're constantly being grounded, it opens up
Hmm.
a lot more for us, a lot
Right.
more ease in
Yeah.
our life that we can be this divine version of ourselves and that we could listen a lot clearer without all the outside noise,
Yeah.
trying to
Absolutely.
rile us up.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a time for like learning and observing and being with others. And then there's a time where we gotta have solitude and do our inner reflection and process and even, the balance between taking space and making space.
Yes, absolutely. And I really it was funny because I just said this to myself too while I was kind of indecisive and everything. And I
Hmm.
did feel that when you said like you miss therapy.
Hmm.
Because I felt
Yeah.
that so hard, girl. I
Yeah.
felt it.
Therapy was such a big part of my healing journey. Um, so yeah, I miss therapy, but it's so expensive. But we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it. But let's get
Yeah.
into it. Okay, we done
Yeah,
our
that's a
little mental
perfect,
health check.
yeah, it's a perfect time to talk about, a lot of, I don't know about you, but when I first started my healing journey, I instantly started getting to know people that went through therapy or people were like, girl, you need therapy.
Yeah, yeah.
After I like was talking to people about my, feelings and everything. Um,
Right.
but actually we did do some research about the statistics and background of therapy, and it really does play a hand in hand in emotional and mental health. And yeah, so like you said, so one thing too about therapy, sometimes it's not just like a one meeting. Okay, so let's
Oh,
just start
absolutely
there.
not. Absolutely.
It's when I don't know about you, Lay, but when I went through therapy, it was a process. It was like a program. That's how I kind of pictured it.
Yeah.
And, you have goals, and it's not just like a one meeting, especially like for first timers like me. Like, girl, we needed scheduled meetings
Yeah.
far out.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but so I did do some research, and usually that one time meeting really cost about like 150 to $200. And that's just
Yeah.
one. Of course, if you have insurance, it might, look different for different things.
Right.
But that means for me, I think I had about 10 sessions scheduled.
Uh-huh.
I can't even do that damn math. But let's see. If it was 150, that'll be a $1,500. And I can't even say maybe those 10 sessions I felt, really good ending them. You get me?
Uh-huh.
So that's just a
Like you still
little,
feel like you could use some work.
yeah, like just like I said, like I miss therapy as well too. Like
Yeah.
I would love to go and have that program again or someone constantly
Yeah.
scheduled.
Did you do the one that we had with Oceanique?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Was that helpful for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, it was good. That was my first time ever talking to a therapist. And
Really?
I was always really interested. And I was at the time majoring in psychology and
Oh,
I
I'm
wanted to
glad
be a
we could
therapist.
do that for you.
Yeah, so it was actually really good. And, you know, for people who have done therapy or are really looking into it, also there's different forms of therapy, there's different
Right.
therapists, you know,
Right.
and even those could be ranging
Right.
different
Different
costs.
specialties. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, so that's the average cost for like a one per session.
Damn.
Um, yeah, it's pretty up there, especially just because, not a lot of people everyone has insurance, and not a lot of people just like put the therapy in the budget. You feel me?
Right. It's expensive. That's one reason I'm not doing it now. I mean, the only way I was able to afford it was through my insurance. But the funny thing is that when I got in trouble as a young person and I got put on probation, one of the
Hmm.
requirements was that I had to go to therapy.
Oh, wow.
And so I was mandated by the court to
To
go
go
to
to therapy.
therapy.
Wow.
And so I mean, there was that. And of course, I wouldn't recommend, going court mandated therapy, but I've been going to therapy for years. Like as a young person, like when my parents or my mom first put me in, I was 5. And then I went
Oh,
again,
wow.
when I got in trouble at 12, when I got put on probation. And in high school, I was at El Cerrito, and so I was fortunate enough to have a high school that had a health center where you could
Oh,
request
wow.
therapy.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So like I think, there are ways and opportunities where folks can find, especially young people, but you got to do the work and look for it, right? Like even with
Absolutely.
us, like with our organization, we were fortunate enough to be able to have that extra budget to make that happen for y'all. And if I could, I would
Hmm.
do it again, like
Right.
I would love to be able to afford therapy for me, you, and Sin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's something, and you guys will also hear even just how we speak about mental health, emotional health, and the realization is that, maybe if you don't have insurance or whatever the case may be, usually we put our mental health on the back end.
Right,
Like we're not prioritizing it as much as like our car payment or our
right,
groceries. You get me?
right, right,
So,
right.
and that's why a lot of the statistics I've seen and that we have noted is is a bit sad just because it's not, you know, as much as talked about anymore. Or it
Right.
is talked about, but it's like, okay, like what if I really need like therapy? What if I really need to go to an outside source, you know?
Right.
And a lot of statistics reflect that, self-doubt in ourselves, in our mental health as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just share a little bit of what we found.
Please do.
Um, so for the whole big broad one is that as of 2021, an estimated 57.8 million adults in the United States were living with a mental health condition. And that's a lot. That's a lot, okay? That is absolutely a lot. And then another thing is that only or no, 54.7% did not receive any mental health treatment
Really.
whatsoever. Yes. And a lot of it, then, so those were adults. And then globally, 1 in 7, 10 to 19-year-olds experience a mental health disorder.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And for both, um, a lot of so adults and youth, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it, if it starts super young,
Uh-huh.
it actually could be a leading cause of illnesses and disabilities,
Right.
which goes into another crazy statistic I found was that mental health disorder
Mm-hmm.
is more likely to happen more than cancer.
Okay.
And it's crazy just because, if you go to a doctor and if you have cancer, you're getting treatments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if not for mental illness, it's just going to continuously, you know, be undetermined.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. I think just because for someone to compare illness to cancer, like cancer we know is like a deathly illness,
Right.
but to have it more likely happen is
Mm-hmm.
just wild to me.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, I guess I'm not as surprised that mental
Yeah,
illness is more um common than cancer. Um, I don't even know why, like, but to me that just makes sense. I don't know. Not to say that it's a good
because
thing,
it's right, but
but
it shows just because how like undergo mental illness could be.
yeah, and it's something that is like hardly ever talked about,
Yeah.
and it's like the things that we go through on a daily basis regularly. I think
Mm.
a lot of times with cancer, from what I've seen, is that there are things that cause cancer, things that like you're exposed to, right? Like even stress. I
Mm-hmm.
heard somewhere yesterday, I was listening to that 80% of women who lose their children um develop cancer.
Wow. Really?
And it's like a grief and a stress and a trauma thing.
And it's all combined. So, and then that even goes to like, what is mental illness looking like? What is the mental health whole thing? And what you just said, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
So, and I do
Yeah.
remember when I was learning about, like what's going on and everything, they
Mm-hmm.
did say like mental illness is like cancer. It's like something in your body, and then that's just like building up and spreading.
Right. Absolutely.
And that just makes like my heart hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary, right? So, yeah, the statistics about mental health and mental illness are just staggering, that like even 80% of people will develop mental illness at some point. Like I would be
Hmm.
interested to stand in a room of 100 people, and by a show of hands, how many people have felt depressed before,
Right.
or how many people have struggled with severe stress or something like
Hmm.
that, things
Hmm.
like that. Or even like how many folks feel like, and this would probably be a tough question for folks to answer unless they actually have had time to process it or have an understanding of what trauma is. But
Hmm.
like, how many folks have experienced trauma,
Right.
in their lifetime, like a severely stressful situation that impacts and influences how they think and what they do till this day.
Mm. Mm.
Definitely a crazy thing to think about, that I don't remember if you read this one, but that suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
no,
crazy, right?
that is crazy. And even just the 15 to 29-year-olds
Uh-huh.
in those years, because, I'm living it right now,
Uh-huh.
those years are so intense, like
So intense.
so intense. And just because, like you said, from something that maybe have happened, when in the past or in the present,
Yeah.
It is just too much. And that's what I also mean about sometimes, like at 15 years old, right? I'm pretty sure I would have benefited off of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know anything about insurance, you know? And a
Right.
lot of the times as a teenager, you're not telling your parents, like, I need freaking help over here, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I need help, mom. I need help, dad. Like, you know?
Yeah,
And
not at
so
all.
we don't know those things. We don't know therapy. We
Yeah.
don't
Like it's
know
like we think it's just a
insurance.
thing of life.
Exactly. Like, we're really at those ages until you probably get around like 20 years old and all these adults are like, oh, you don't got insurance? Like,
Yeah.
then we're like, okay, what the hell is that? But at that time, we're just fighting with ourselves in our mind,
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
bedroom alone.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like that is the fourth leading cause of death among those ages
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't know who to talk to. We
Mm-hmm.
don't, we can't go out and like ask our parents about insurance or money or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it's really cool that we started learning and spreading the word of the dimensions of wellness because it is like a huge knowledge facts to have and it could be
Mm-hmm.
easily comprehended for even those ages and younger too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay, heavy topic. Heavy topic. I want to move us into tools and practices that
Yeah.
could benefit our mental and emotional health. Um, and just make sure that we kind of transition this conversation into, a more opportunity to do more transformative work and have more transformative conversations because ultimately this is the reality, right? Like all of these statistics that we shared, this is the reality for folks in society, right? But we as individuals, there are things that we can do to reclaim our power and really put into practice so that we can benefit our mental health. And when we as individuals are in a better state of health, then we as a collective and we as a community, and then by extension, we as a society can better thrive. So,
Yes, let's
we're
get
gonna talk
into
about
it.
some things. We're gonna talk about some things, and I'm excited. Okay, so the very first thing that I really wanted to bring up was just like understanding that a lot of the things that we go through that influence how we think, like our thought patterns and the ways that we perceive the world, other people, ourselves, certain circumstances and situations. A lot of those things are like subconscious, and they're subconscious because the things that we go through, especially over a long period of time or as we're growing up, they live in our body and in our nervous system. And the way our nervous system operates and the way that we operate is that we're programmed for connection and safety. So when the
Hmm.
things that we go through sever those connections or disrupt or harm or prevent those connections, it makes us harder to move and talk and think in a way that will better allow for it and make space for it because we're in protection mode, right? Like we're in safety mode.
Yeah.
So I think the first things first is like knowing that and learning to do things that, even be alongside you doing some deep reflection and critical thinking about what we've been through and how it influences us. It is a reminder to take care of our body and listen to our body and notice the things that we need, right?
Hmm.
So with that, I'm gonna go into meditation. So meditation is like it's been one of my go-tos and
Hmm.
has really been a lifeline for me. With what I've been through, a lot of my initial responses have been freeze or fawn. And
Mm.
freeze in the sense of where like I'm stuck, I'm on quiet, I don't got nothing to say. I'm like, I make myself small or I hide or I avoid the conversation. That was kind of like my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Either that and then fawn. And fawn is something that's not as commonly talked about. Usually we hear fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's also freeze, and fawn is like the people pleasing and it's appeasing. And this is the one that you
Mm.
do to kind of like appease your transgressor or the person who's harming you, right? Like, so that was me. And so the biggest form of meditation for me has been meditating on affirmations or
Yes.
just meditating to clear my mind, where I'm kind of like, if a thought comes up, I kind of let it go. I'm training myself to like not hold on so tight and so close to how I think and how I feel, because now
Mm-hmm.
I'm making room for new things and new ideas and new ways of living and new ways to perceive what I go through.
Mm. Mm.
And there's so much scientific background and research on the benefits of meditation.
Mm.
Meditation, it reduces like responses in our body that's caused by stress. There was a study that was done, and in the study, it was who was it by? I forget who did the study. I'd have to read into it more. But in the study, there was 1,300 people who participated in the study. And um, or I don't know how many was out, but anyways, 1,300 people in the study show that meditation decreased their stress levels. So it really has big benefits on reducing stress. And some stress related conditions could include like irritable bowel syndrome, PTSD, even fibromyalgia. Um,
Mm.
because stress impacts the body. So meditation is not
Yes.
only good for our mental health and our stress levels, but also our body. It can help control your anxiety. Um, what else? It can also promote like emotional health. And so there was one study where they compared electrical activity between brains of people who like practiced meditation and then brains of people who didn't.
Mm.
And then the people who did meditate, there was significant, like measurable changes in their brain activity that is related to positive thinking and optimism. Even like self-esteem and self-awareness, it can really help us improve things like that. And even
Mm.
like lengthen our attention span, right? Because we're
Right.
learning to like be mindful and just concentrate on this one thing, right? Like, so for me in my
Yeah.
meditation, I'm concentrating on one single affirmation or one single mantra or just my
Yes.
breath or learning to concentrate on like nothing, right? I'm like learning to just let
Right.
everything go. Because, sometimes stress can be us overthinking about a situation that we might not have control over.
Right.
Um, so many benefits to meditation, and there's so many forms of meditation too. Some examples I already shared of like, doing a mantra or just learning to be aware of the present, like mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath or, focusing on whatever comes up, whatever thoughts and feelings, but then learning them to kind of just letting them pass.
Yes.
Even yoga is a form of meditation, right? It's like these different
Mm-hmm.
serious postures. You got to control your body, calm your mind. You got to balance. You got to control your breath. A lot of times when you
Yeah.
do yoga, they'll tell you like take a certain amount of breaths and then transition poses on like the third breath. So for
Right.
me,
And it's focusing.
exactly. So like when I do yoga, I don't know if I've ever done it with you, but I tend to do three breaths per pose.
Right.
Um,
That's
even
usually
Tai
how I do
Chi.
it too.
Oh, you too? Yeah, there's something
Mm-hmm.
special about three. Three is a holy number, so I really love three.
Mm-hmm.
All good things comes in threes. I got three kids. We got three on our team now. Okay. Um,
Hey.
Tai Chi and Qigong. So like there's movement meditation too. Tai Chi is like, an ancient Chinese martial arts training, and you kind of do like movements and postures with deep breaths and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Qigong, it combines both like relaxation, movement, meditation, and breath. And Qigong, from what I've learned or have been told, is that it's like connected to your life force and your life energy. So it's about moving energy through your body as well. Sometimes I even just freestyle, like I'll dance and I'll zone in and I'll concentrate on nothing but the music and my body. And for me, that's like also one of my favorite forms of meditation. Um,
I can't
but so
wait.
many things. Yeah, even walking, like walking meditation, right? Like going
Right.
outside and being aware of your surroundings, like looking at all of the things that you see in the world, and especially nature. Like I love doing nature walks.
Yes.
Walking during the sunrise or the sunset is also one of my favorite things. It just really reminds me of like the beauty of life that you don't even have to try for. That's just like we're just blessed and
Yes.
graced with this beauty, and we didn't have to do nothing but open our eyes and go outside.
Right. I started reading this book. I don't know if you ever heard of this author, but his name is Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah,
And
I have a
yeah,
couple of his books. He has like mindful eating. I have that one.
yeah, his series usually or the series I have, they're little books and it's like how to. It's the how to series and
Okay.
I was reading
You
the
have
how
his
to.
books?
Uh-huh, I do. Yes.
Okay, those are some ones we can when we do our book trade.
Okay. Yeah, they're super small. They're super digestible, for
Yeah,
the people who are just like can't read,
easy to read,
all
huh?
these big old pages. Yeah, and
I
I
like it.
one thing I really started to do was walking meditation after I started reading How to Walk. And some of the quotes I've been whatever I've been reading, I've been writing down some quotes that I would want to take with me everywhere.
Oh,
And he
nice.
says, the act of walking will water the seeds of peace that are already there inside of us.
Oh, I
I
like
just
that.
love it just because it just goes coincide with what you just said of we're already honoring what has been there that
Mm-hmm.
we possibly walk by every single day.
Yeah.
And another one that he did say too, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes if I'm working out or whatever, I'm always constantly thinking about the end, like the end
Mm-hmm.
of my workout, the end of my hike, or the end of my, stroll to get from point A to point B. But he
Right.
says basically we didn't need to arrive. We arrived with every step.
Yeah. That's
It's
good.
just like the purpose. And
That's
when
good.
you're focusing on something is a form of meditation too.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Mindfulness. Absolutely. Like mindfulness and meditation can go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that you wanted to talk about in terms of practices and
Some
tools?
practices. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have the walking meditation. I what I started doing was if I got really agitated in my body and my mind and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
literally I would just be like, move, like go somewhere and move out of the place that you're in right now and
Uh-huh.
just
Moving your body.
really move your
Yeah.
body. I've been starting to like shake my hips, because a lot of things
Ooh.
are stored in our hips and our
Yeah.
shoulders. And sometimes I'll just like just shake, just shake it up
Yeah.
for real.
I love
Um,
that. I love
and
that.
yeah, and it's just like fun. Yesterday when I was feeling like super agitated, Sin told me like, girl, just go hit it exercise and like really hit, you know, whatever you really want because like we said with our cycle syncing, certain cycles also have certain workouts that will really help you in your hormones and
Right.
your emotions. So I'm really a huge advocate of like movement, y'all. And I really started this past year getting into Pilates as well. And Pilates is just like the yoga
Mm-hmm.
workout, and it's basically just to improve the physical and like the physical but mind body exercise with
Yeah.
like every breath you're moving and strengthening, and you're just focusing on something else other than all the outside
Yeah,
noise.
that's good. I think part of emotional and mental health and doing things that help improve our emotional and mental health is like doing things that feel good for us, but that of
Mm-hmm.
course it's not like just doing whatever you feel and
Right.
because sometimes it can be harmful, right? When we're not really thinking about the long-term impacts, but it's like moving in a way that feels good, resting in
Yeah,
a way that feels good, spending our free time in a way that feels good and healthy. Um,
absolutely.
the training that I'm gonna do in May is
Hmm.
gonna be about art and movement based somatics for healing. So I'm excited
Nice.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm
I
excited.
love the somatics. I also have like grounding practices. We've definitely, you know, have hit those on the past episodes that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Going into your toolbox.
Right.
Um, and then really what I feel like is sometimes super hard for me because
Uh-huh.
of just the stigmas around, reaching out and
Uh-huh.
talking about your feelings is just like, oh, you don't do that, you're weak or whatever. But
Yeah.
honestly, like, y'all, like, go meet with a friend. Like, go utilize your people because they're there for
Yeah.
you. Even if
Yeah.
it's like, as you grow up and as young folks grow up, you're gonna realize who you could go to in certain situations and who you can't. Like, we all have a role in each other's lives. And, you
Absolutely.
know, utilize your people, utilize someone who, is reaching out to you and lending a hand for you, and take that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to just maybe go out or invite a friend over or whatever and
Right.
just meet with somebody because it really nourishes the need for what you said was like the belonging and the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
affection. It really does nourish that
Yeah.
area of our life.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely have like my go-to person that I know I can call on. So definitely finding your people for
Yeah, find
sure.
your people. And then my last thing that, y'all, I have this in my New Year resolutions. I have this in all my vision boards. Is really think about what you're thinking
Yeah.
and
Yeah, like why
saying.
am I thinking this way? Like where does
Mm-hmm.
this thought pattern come from?
Because we
Yeah.
always hear of like think before you say, right? And it's really a good thing to think about, okay? It's a really good
Hmm.
quote to live by. And so what I've been liking to do is think about what you're thinking, especially maybe before going out like for with a friend or something, or
Hmm.
confiding in that person that you like to talk about things with. But think about what you're thinking, and it's really just examining how we take in and process information like
Right.
beforehand and figure out ways we can do that more efficiently
Right.
instead of just like randomly blurbing out every single thing you feel. Because I don't know about you, but something that been was really on my mind welcoming this new year is participating in conversations that make me feel really whole after leaving
Yeah.
and not like an
Yeah.
open thing of emotions or thoughts,
Right.
because that makes me feel not really good when I have those conversations. So, if you want to talk to somebody, it's like, all right, like let's talk about it. And also let's get
Do
away
something
from this
about it.
conversation feeling good about our decision and our
Yeah.
conversation that we just had.
Yeah, sometimes we just need a space to vent and process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of connected to another thing I wanted to share, just about reprogramming how we think and how we
Mm-hmm.
move. Sometimes we get so conditioned and so stuck in our ways even when they're not good for us.
Yeah.
And even when they're not conducive to having healthy and long-term loving relationships, you know? And so even beyond just thinking about why we're thinking or what we're thinking, we
Hmm.
also have to learn to develop new ways of thinking that'll be better for us in the long run. That'll be better for our relationships in the long run because our healing cannot happen in isolation. And as humans, we are built for connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's really big. And the last thing I wanted to share was about hormone hacking. We brought it up a little bit earlier, but the one that I've been kind of going off of, so my self-care list every day is a list of three things. It used to be like mind, body, spirit, and so I would do one thing for each of those, but I'm getting ready to transition into this thing I that I've seen called the daily dose, and it's about hormone
Mm.
hacking. And so D stands for dopamine, O is for oxytocin, S is for serotonin, and E is for endorphins. So all of those things are like happy chemicals. And so when
Yes.
you have dopamine, when your body releases dopamine, it increases motivation, learning, and pleasure. And it gives you determination to do, accomplish your goals or, pursue the things that you need or desire.
Hmm.
Oxytocin, that's a thing that like it you get from like when you hug somebody, you release oxytocin. So oxytocin, it's known as like the cuddle or the love hormone, and it plays a role in bonding, feelings of trust, and
Mm.
motivates us to build relationships. So, for example, with me, one of the things that I'm using as my go-to for oxytocin is like quality time with my kids,
Yes.
playtime with them, and like quality time with my partner, and like connecting
Hmm.
deeper or praying together, whatever it is, our episodes together.
Right.
So S is for serotonin, and that is connected to like feelings of confidence and feeling significant or like important.
Hmm.
And it also helps with like self-acceptance. Despite whatever else is like going around with other folks. And things that are good for serotonin is like exercise, cold showers, sunlight, massages. So I know I love giving
Ooh,
myself
all
like
the
I'll do
things.
like a scalp massage or a foot
Yes.
massage. I use my gua sha, massage my face, things like that. And then the last thing
Even
is
icing.
endorphins. Ooh, oh, I haven't tried that. Haven't tried that.
Girl,
I do the
icing
cold
is
shower
the
though.
best.
I'm
Yes,
gonna try that.
icing is just, it's amazing. I do it every morning.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm gonna have to try that. I do know I only drink iced water, so maybe that's it. Maybe that's my
Okay, that's inside, for
yeah.
the outer feeling,
Yes, a little
just
both.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then the last thing is the E, and that's the endorphins. And so, endorphins it's something that like you get this sense of euphoria, and
Mm.
it's like a response to pain and stress, and then it can relieve anxiety and depression. When you have a lack of endorphins, that's when you feel your mood swings or anxiety or depression. But the things that help with it is like laughter or art or music or exercise and stretching and meditation. So there's all these things that like if you have a deficiency in these hormones, then it has a negative impact on your body and your mood and your mental health. But when you are actively releasing these hormones and doing things to release these hormones, it has a really positive impact on your
Mm.
emotional and mental health and your mood. So that's something I'm getting ready to start practicing if anybody wants to try it, but it's called your daily dose of happiness chemicals.
Nice. And like Lay said, Pinterest is her best friend. So maybe y'all should take matters in your own hands too and look all that up on Pinterest.
Yepers. So this was a great episode. I'm super excited and I really hope that everybody got some things that they can take away from it. Um,
Yes.
I think as we close out, are you still wanting to play some meditation music, some calming music?
Yes, so we wanted to, of course, close out, leave you guys with these tips and practices. And at the very end, after me and Lay leave, we're just going to be leaving our theme music on. It's a form of high frequency music. So
Yes,
y'all could
ma'am.
do whatever you want. You could stretch, meditate, journal, anything. We wanted to leave this space up for you. And thank you for tapping in with us in this first
Absolutely.
episode back.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, we'll see you all for the next episode, first Friday of March. Thanks for tuning in for our first Friday of February episode. Stay tuned for what's to come during the next episode. I don't think we've decided
Absolutely.
yet what we're doing next month, but I'm sure we'll make an announcement soon.
Definitely another dimension. And definitely follow us on Instagram at BayPeace510 for more updates.
Yes, ma'am. All right. That's it. I hope you got some liberated.
Yes. Have a good meditation, y'all. Peace.
Peace.